Hello मेरे प्यारे बच्चों, welcome back. So glad you're here for another quick explainer to help you absolutely ace your exams. Today, we're diving into a chapter that, well, it can feel a little heavy, right? Constitution as a living document. But trust me, by the end of our little chat, you'll get it completely. We're going to break it all down. So let's jump right in and make sure you're totally ready for your exams.
Okay, so just think about this for a second. The book that runs our entire country, it was written over 70 years ago. That's before you had Instagram, before we had smartphones, even before online classes became a thing. So how on earth can a book that old still be the rulebook for modern India today? I mean, isn't it outdated? That's the big puzzle we're going to solve together. It's a really good question, isn't it?
And don't you worry, we're not going to get lost. We have a simple roadmap. We'll ask, is our Constitution frozen? Then we'll see how to update it. We'll look at why there are so many amendments. Then, the really interesting part, the unchangeable basic structure. And finally, we'll see what makes it a living document. Super simple? Let's go.
All right, first up, is our Constitution frozen? So here's a fun fact. Some countries, they've had like 5, 6, even more constitutions. They just keep rewriting the whole rulebook. But India, nope. We've stuck with the very same one since 1950. So what's the secret? Why haven't we needed a new one?
Well, the answer is just brilliant. The people who wrote our Constitution, they were super smart. They knew India would change, grow, and face new challenges. So they had a choice. Make a static document, like a rulebook carved in stone that never changes, or make a living document, one that could breathe, adapt, and evolve with us. And that's exactly what they did. They gave us a constitution that was built to last because it was built to change.
So the big question is, how do you update a constitution? Well, there's a secret mechanism for it, and it's called an amendment. The easiest way to think about it is like a software update for your phone. You get a notification, you update, and boom, new features, bugs are fixed. That's kind of what amendments do for our Constitution, and this special power is written right there in Article 368.
But here's where it gets really clever. The makers had a big decision. Should they make it super flexible so it's easy to change? The danger there is anyone could just change it for their own benefit. Or should they make it really rigid and super difficult to change? Well, then it might not be able to adapt. So what did they do? They did something amazing. They made it a mix of both. Some things are easy to change, and some things are really, really protected. It's the perfect balance.
Okay, so how does this actually work? There are 3 main ways to get an update done. First, the easiest one, a simple majority. This is for, smaller changes, like adjusting state boundaries. It passes just like a regular law. Then there's step 2, which is much tougher, the special majority. For this, you need a lot of support. 2/3 of the people voting have to say yes, and that has to be more than half of the total members in the House. And then there's the final boss level, step 3. This needs that same special majority in Parliament, plus you have to get approval from at least half of all the state governments in India. This is for the really big stuff that affects everyone. Now, I can almost hear what you're thinking. Wait a minute, 2/3 this, half of that? Is this politics or a maths class? It feels super complicated, right? You're not alone. Your textbook even has this exact thought from a student. But listen, it's not just about maths, Beta. It's about something much, much bigger. It's about democracy. See, this special majority rule is like a safety lock. It makes sure that huge changes to our Constitution aren't just pushed through by a small group. It forces our leaders to talk, to debate, and to make sure that a really broad section of the country agrees. It protects the soul of our nation's rulebook. Okay, moving on to our third section. So, if making changes is so hard, then why have we made over 100 of them? I mean, 100 updates. That sounds like a lot. Does it mean our Constitution was full of mistakes? Let's dig into why this number is so high. Now have a look at this graph from your book. It's super interesting. See how the amendments aren't spread out evenly? They come in these waves. Look at that big burst of activity between 1970 and 1990. And then another one around the early 2000s. This shows that our Constitution isn't just being changed randomly. It's responding to the big political and social shifts happening in the country. It's reacting to our needs, which is exactly what a living document should do. So, why so many amendments? For your exams, just remember these 3 easy categories. Think of them as 3 different baskets. First, you have the small technical or admin changes, simple stuff, like changing the retirement age for judges.
The second basket is for differing interpretations. This is when the Supreme Court says one thing and Parliament wants to make the meaning clearer, so they pass an amendment. And the third basket, that's for big changes that almost everyone agrees on, political consensus. A perfect example is when they lowered the voting age from 21 down to 18. Everybody agreed it was a good idea.
Of course, not all of these updates were smooth sailing. Some were actually very, very controversial. The most famous example is the 42nd Amendment, which happened during the emergency. It tried to make massive changes all at once and give Parliament huge amounts of power. But here's the beautiful part of our democracy. It didn't stick. Later governments came in and passed other amendments, the 43rd and 44th, to reverse most of those changes and bring back the balance.
Now, that whole story about reversing a bad amendment brings us to one of the most powerful ideas in our entire syllabus. Think about it. Is there a line that can't be crossed? Is there a part of our Constitution that is so important, so fundamental, that no one can ever change it? Well, there is, and it's called the basic structure.
So this is the big, big question. Let's say a government has all the numbers, a huge special majority. Does that mean they can change anything? Could they take away your fundamental rights? Could they say, you know what, we're not a democracy anymore? It sounds scary, right? And for years, this was a massive tug-of-war between the Parliament and the Supreme Court.
And then, in 1973, in a legendary case called the Kesavananda Bharati case, the Supreme Court finally gave an answer, and they used this perfect analogy. They said, look, think of the Constitution as a building. You can change it, you can renovate it, repaint the walls, add a new room, but you cannot, under any circumstances, destroy its foundation.
And that powerful idea, my dear students, is called the basic structure doctrine. Please remember this for your exam. It's so important. What it means is simple. Parliament can change the Constitution, yes, but it cannot damage or destroy its basic structure, its core soul and spirit. And who gets to decide what is part of this basic structure? The judiciary. This is like the ultimate shield that protects our Constitution's core values, forever.
Okay, so we've reached the final section. Let's tie everything together now. We started with a puzzle, remember? How can a 70-year-old book still be our guide? Let's deliver the final verdict.
The secret to our Constitution's success is not that it's perfect or set in stone. Actually, its success is because it's not set in stone. It's a living, breathing document. It works because it has a smart way to change and adapt. It has a protector, that basic structure idea, that keeps its soul safe. And most importantly, it's kept alive by all of us, through the debates, the court cases, and the dreams of the people of India.
So you see, it's not some dusty old book sitting on a shelf. No way. It's a strong, dynamic, and ever-adapting guide that has literally grown up with our country. It's proof of how wise its creators were and how our democracy has matured. It is, without a doubt, truly alive.
And with that, we're at the end of our chapter summary. I really hope this made things clear and you can see just how special our Constitution is. But before you go, I have a thought for you. Looking around at India and the world today, what's one update you think our Constitution might need for the future? Just something to think about. Okay, that's all for now, Butcho. All the very best for your exams. Study hard. I know you'll do great.